Yes. And good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. My name's Digital Dragon. I'm a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. Since we do everything from unboxing printers like our X1 Carbons over here, Reality K1, to full up printer builds like our Vorons over here in the corner, the LH Stinger right behind us. I also take part in some beta programs like the Box Turtle, several hot end betas for Betas, and a couple other manufacturers. So I hope everybody's doing well. Hey, Chewy, welcome on in. Eagle the Dragon, welcome on in. Today, I know I say I'm Digital Dragon, but I'm wearing a Hedgehog Make shirt. I like to wear everybody's shirt, support all the other makers that are out there. And, we're one big community, so we got to help each other out. So today we've been, well, actually over the last couple of days, we've been working on a 1949 to 1950 early model 1591 Singer sewing machine that belonged to Eagle the Dragon and Mrs. Dragon's great grandmother. So yeah, this has been a fun little project to work on. We've been cleaning everything up. This is what I will refer to as a preservative restoration. And what that means is the goal here is not to strip it down to the bare metal, repaint it, and try and redo everything and make it look mint again. This is a family heirloom. The goal here is to revive the machine, make it viable, have it work again, and be used by family members for the next 75 years, because this is a 75-year-old machine. But yeah, that's kind of where we've been at. Over the last couple of streams, you've seen me take a bunch of parts off of the sewing machine. We worked on cleaning some things up. The status is basically what you're going to see right here. When I adjust the camera tilt, there we go. It's kind of still in some parts here. We took as much as I was comfortable taking off of the chassis. I didn't want to remove everything from the head because the shafts are somewhat hard to find, and everything still works. Everything's going up and down as appropriate. So there was no need to really work on penetrating oil and everything else to try and break these free to get them fully clean top to bottom. Anything that was exposed, I did run emery cloth over it. And, well, I did some IPA using Q-tips, some emery cloth, and anything that was stubborn that looked like it might have been rust. I did wipe some evapor rust on it as well to try and get that cleaned up as best as possible. Drinking some coffee. Hey Thorpe, how's it going? Yes, this is a strange looking 3D printer. But hey, we got 3D printers in the background. We've been printing on the IDEX. We've been dual head multicolor print on the RatRig IDEX, right? So we are getting that done up well. All the lines are joining very nicely for the IDEX. So everything's going good there. I will be opening some packages that arrived today as well that may have some other stuff. But yeah, we've been working on reviving the Singer sewing machine here. Once again, this is based on the serial number. This is a December 1949 to most likely January of 1950, based on the batch of serial numbers that were issued for the 15 series and how close this is to the front of that stack of numbers. It was used by Mrs. Dragon and Eagle the Dragon's great grandmother, who was a professional seamstress. Does that Singer also have a table? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It's going to need some TLC. At the very least, we're taking the tabletops and we're going to take it down to bare wood and try and redo the finish on it. If we can't get it to match somewhat closely to the rest of the cabinet, we will strip the rest of the cabinet and refinish it all together. Once I get the sewing machine done, the next stage is to go to the cabinet. I'm going to pull off as much of the metal fasteners and doodads that go on the cabinet that I can. And we'll clean those up, throw some stuff in Evaporust, get that cleaned up. Like there's a chain in there that supports some pieces. You know, it's a 75-year-old cabinet. There's some tender loving care that needs to be done to it. We recently, on the last stream, which was yesterday, we reassembled the motor. This is, oh, here, let me pop the screws loose here and ratcheting screwdriver, and it's always in the wrong direction when you want to take something off or put it on. This is what they refer to as a potted motor or a brushed motor. But this is a Singer 110, 120 volt, half amp motor. Come on, stop that. Hey, focus. There we go. Half amp motor, 25 to 75 cycles AC/DC. So we took this completely, well, we took the coil out, we took the stator, the commutator, the shaft out, and we did all that. We rewired it because the wire that was there was, yeah, I was having to scrape the melted insulation off the side of the motor because they had actually twisted the bare aluminum wire inside the motor coil. So I don't know how this ever ran, or somebody had worked on this beforehand, but the wall plug was missing and the foot pedal was disconnected from the wall plug. So I kind of have a feeling that they may have tried to change the wall plug and smoke the motor, or smoke the wires at least. The motor still is good. We did run this on the last stream. So that's verified as working. And we did that using, basically we connected this up to the Bakelite. We connected the new wall cable and foot pedal cable to the front, plugged it in, and used the foot pedal to articulate the motor or run the motor, and everything ran fine, so we're good there. I cannot fully close up the motor and mount it just yet. I did booger one of the springs really bad for the grease wicks. And our motor is going to mount like this, which means these two ports down here where the grease wicks go will be facing down right above the power inlet. So we need to get the grease wicks and the springs done up. And like I said, I've got a couple of new springs, but basically you have some wick material. You'll take your spring and basically screw it around your wick material, probably until it's about halfway on there. If I can get it to start going on, there we go. So we'll do both of them about like this. We'll gob some grease on this, shove it down in the hole. We'll have a retaining clip that will come down over the top of it that gets put down in that hole, and then we fill it the rest of the way up with grease, and we do that on both sides. And that is going to keep the inside motor constantly greased. This is a worm drive, so let me do it this way, it'll probably be easy. So we've got a worm drive gear in here that drives the sprocket here on the hand wheel. And on this hand wheel, there's an attachment that'll hang off these lugs right here, which will be the bobbin winder. So there's an automated bobbin winder on here. You would set your spool down here on a felt pad. This piece we had off, we can go ahead and put this back on. This is the winding tensioning mechanism for the bobbins. So, and of course, that's magnetized one. Always something. So you will set your spool up with your bobbin thread material down here, come around this tensioner and up to the bobbin winding mechanism. And you will be able to basically disengage the clutch that drives the business end, aka the left side. There's a shaft that goes all the way through here. You'll disengage a spring clutch over here on the handle, and that'll disengage the motion going this way, so it's only spinning the big hand wheel here. And our bobbin setup is going to be sitting on that with a rubber wheel, so it'll automatically run the bobbin. Once the bobbin's full, it's got a mechanism with a spring that will automatically disengage the bobbin. So you're done, you let off the pedal, you can adjust and re-engage the clutch mechanism, move your bobbin over here, get your thread material set up, and start sewing. So yeah, it's a pretty neat little system. We were talking about this on stream yesterday. This could be used in a, and I'm going to say it a little bit differently, a commercial setting, right? This is in a cabinet. It was in somebody's personal house. The only difference between this machine and one that would be used in a commercial setting, and I will say that as a clothing shop, an alteration shop, is whether it's in somebody's house or it's in somebody's business, right? The only difference between this machine and an industrial machine, so a clothing manufacturer, would be the size of the motor that's hanging on the back of it, because the industry ones or industrial ones would have a 3-phase motor and stuff to go into the buildings. Now, if I bring you guys in, I'm going to bring you guys in a bit. You may notice some weirdness when I move this out of the way. So you see how this is kind of nice and shiny, and then you've got this dull area. So I did some queries and I got a response back. And what they're telling me is this is the area where the clear lacquer coat has worn off from use. This stuff right here is the clear lacquer that's still on the machine that has yellowed and is just worn. Now, can I bring that back any? Yes. There is a technique called a French polish technique, and it uses denatured alcohol and linseed oil to try and break up some of the older clear coat and kind of feather it out some. And then you come back with several light coats of shellac and linseed oil, which once again will help melt the old stuff and into the new stuff. I'm not doing a full restoration. If I wanted to do a full restoration on this, I can hunt down, there are places where I can get new decals. And I would take this machine completely apart. I would strip all the paint, and I would and now here's the thing. It's a black lacquer paint system, but it's what they call Japanning. So I believe what they would do is actually dip the paint or the machine carcass in this black lacquer. Okay. If they didn't dip it, then they would either brush or spray it, and they would give it several coats. They'd let that dry and bake it and let it bake. And then they would come back in, and they're basically like water transfer decals that they would put on the machine. Right? And I'll pull back out some. They would hand lay all of the decals on here all the way around, and then they would come in and do the clear lacquer finish. And the French polish method is basically how they would do that clear lacquer, and it's very time intensive. I could spend a week just trying to revive the clear lacquer here, and I'm not sure if that's what I'm going to do. I may just do a little bit of a wax coating to protect the lacquer that the clear has worn off of. But right now, the only thing I've used on the black exterior painted surfaces has been sewing machine oil. All I've used to clean all the dust and stuff away that is sitting on the top layer of the machine. It would be something that I would have to ask Mrs. Dragon and Eagle the Dragon's mom if she wanted me to attempt. But I could do more damage than good. And once again, I want to protect and preserve the existing finish. I'm not going to try and add new decals, but I also don't want to strip the decal that is left on here, if that makes sense. So it's a preservation of the existing state. Yes, I did take off the metal parts here, gave them a good cleaning, polished them up using some metal polish. I buffed them by hand, and then I did use a buffing wheel on a Dremel 3000, and we got this all cleaned up and buffed out. Could it be done a little bit better to get down in the individual grooves in the stripes? Yes. But once again, do I want this showroom brand new shiny on a machine that's obviously not? Right? Value of these, this is serial number 288,431. They made these for decades. The value in this machine is the family heirloom history, not the value in the machine itself. And it would, once again, if it was very well cared for, very lightly used, and all of these were original decals, completely different story. We would do everything we could to preserve the quality of the paint, shine everything up, and that's a showroom piece. That's not what this is. This is a family, well-used piece. So, and thank you for the follow, Lukel. Welcome on in. So what I wanted to do here right now is we've slowly kind of been putting the motor back together. The next thing I should be able to add on here is the bobbin respooler mechanism. And then this whole thing would be able to get fitted back on the motor once I get the springs for the grease wicks, and these should be in tomorrow. So once I get those in, I can grease this motor up, I can close this stuff up, and this part will be done. We would then be able to mount it back on the machine and add the hand wheel. Then the next step, and I'm probably going to have to do like what I'm doing right now. I've been watching a video by Bob Fowler, who restores these things and cleans these up for people. Because, yeah, I'm trying to fully remember how this came apart. There's a judicious use of springs, and springs with little tabs on them. And you need to know where those tabs go and on which side they go when you're putting everything back together. That is one of the reasons why I am glad that I was able to still see all of the numbers on the dial here. There was a lot of gunk through here on the little handle, down the side here. I'm glad that all cleaned up and it wasn't rust and I didn't have to take this apart, because there's a spring here, there's a compression spring, there's like 3 or 4 different springs in this mechanism stack. And I didn't want to have to get in there if I didn't have to, because it's in working order. Just like the front, I didn't want to take the whole front apart. It did take me a while to get the this top screw here out so I can get that cleaned up, because this was a holy mess. The spring was all gunked up with machine oil. We got all that squared away, but the rods themselves, I could not get loose. Even taking the set screws and everything out, I could not get them to break loose from their collars. And I didn't want to use any type of penetrant that could once again leak down and damage the finish of the paint worse than it is, right? Because this is use wear, not sitting out in the elements wear. This was in the cabinet when great grandma passed away in '69. It was used in the house as a piece of furniture. Nobody really used the machine. They just used the table as a table, basically, in the foyer and stuff like that. And eventually, when Mrs. Dragon's mother moved into a smaller place, it went into a storage unit. And when we were at Rocky Mountain Rep Rat Festival last year, me and Evil Diesel flew in with the express intent of getting a small U-Haul and driving back to North Carolina. And we stopped and picked up this sewing machine and its cabinet and everything, and the old stereo, which is another thing I may work on here, probably not on stream. This is not a tabletop stereo. This is like the big, like 80s stereo with a AM FM on one side with the antenna connectors that you can connect as either AM or FM, but not at the same time, and a turntable on the other side, you know, those old things. So anyhow, bobbin winder. This is the core piece of the bobbin winder. There's going to be a rubber wheel that goes around this. The one that was on the machine was like garbage. It looked like it had dry rotted on the machine, right? So that's taken off. We've got a replacement for that. We're going to start working on adding things on over here. We've got a large shoulder bolt. Okay, that's going to come in from the underside here, and we're just kind of hold it there. And if you can see here, I can get the light. I need to possibly pop the shoulder bolt out so you can see. Okay, you might be able to see there's a tiny hole there. Once again, that's where a tab on a spring is going to go through. And you'll see that there's a cutout at the top here. And that'll be, you'll see how that comes into play here in a little bit. Bolt comes in. We've got a spring with a long arm on it and a tab at one end. That tab is what works down into that hole. So we're going to kind of line this up, make sure it lines up with that hole, and we will push it in there. Push, and there we go. Now you'll see that this is riding on the outer edge. In the next step, you'll see me take this and pull it all the way back. We've got a plate here, and this plate is going to lay on here so that the cutout down here lines up with a screw hole, and it's going to be able to go over that shoulder bolt. So it sits on that shoulder bolt, and we're going to put in a screw down here. And in order to get this fully down the shoulder bolt, I'm going to have to hold this down, and I'm going to bring this spring around until it drops down. Whoops, until it drops down there. Right, so this is kind of where we were at. We've got the plate sitting on the bolt, but it's not down on the shoulder fully because the spring's in the way. We're going to take this spring while we're holding it with our finger, bring it back until it pops down into that gap. Now this sits flush with that shoulder bolt, and we're going to need to put a screw down in here, and this is going to be the tension screw. This is going to be a bolt right here that doesn't have a shoulder on it. We'll get that started by hand. And then we're not going to crank it all the way down. We'll get it close though. Just don't want it popping out at me, but I want it to be able to move freely for now, and we'll adjust it a little bit later in the process. And now this is where I got to remember. I think we switch over to the motor side. I literally have the video up over here just to make sure that. Let me bring that up here. This is kind of what he was just, or what I just did is what he is showing now, minus me dropping that bolt out. So we'll kind of follow along with him real fast to make sure that we're putting this in together. Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's basically what I'm going to do here. Once again, a little hole down there that he just showed. One tab will go into that. Small hole right there on the bobbin follower. Kind of looking real fast to make sure that I'm putting this on in the right direction. Okay. So does it make sense? Ah, gotcha. There we go. That makes sense. This sits there. Now the other screw with the other shoulder goes in there. Okay, get that. So I think we're there. However, I think this spring just popped out. Hey, Petty Ruxpin, how's it going? Foxy Alley, how's it going? It's a Bobbin Winder. Bobbin Winder. Nope, that's in there. This piece going like this. So this is where it gets a little fiddly. So we got this spring in right here. So it's the tabs in the back side. This piece has a hole in it. That hole goes in the tab that's coming out from the top, like so. And then we put the other screw with a slight shoulder through the whole thing, and it screws into the bottom or into the lug on the motor. And if you get to keep everything in line, which keep everything in line, you'll have downward tension that holds the spring in place. And the tab is on one side is in the motor housing, the other side is in tab up here, and you'll get a spring action. Okay, so that's what this part does. Now the next part, we're going to wind up joining both of these together. So the spring here lines up with this flat right here in the motor. Line that spring up, and we'll screw this down on there. And if this is done right, line screw up, line screw up, there we go. That still does not seem to be in the right position. It come down on the bobbin. This is physically not in the right position. That's part of my problem. This is all just trying to get everything aligned and remember where everything was supposed to be at with the alignment lugs. That didn't work where I want to go either. The springs and springs, tension, and all that good jazz, and getting pieces lined up without catching and killing yourself with said springs is always a good idea. Now, that will most likely work. There we go. That's what we needed. So this is in the up. You put your bobbin in, this falls down in your bobbin, and you would pull it forward. What you just saw was this engage a little bit, right? This engages just a little bit with this cam mechanism. Okay, so let me show that again. You'll stick your bobbin in. Whoops. You'll get your bobbin ready. You'll stick your bobbin on here. Once your bobbin's on, you take this lever, push down. Now it's sitting on the thread, and what that just did was engage this rubber wheel onto the edge of the larger hand wheel that goes in here. Okay, so now this is going to spin when the hand wheel spins. As it loads up, this is slowly going to raise, and eventually it'll hit a point where it disengages itself, and then it stops. The motor still runs until you let off the pedal, but now your bobbin's no longer winding. You can snip your bobbin, it's now full, and you can go on. So that's how that all goes together and will work together. That back out. I will need to put the rubber wheel on that, where did I put the rubber wheel at? I'm going to need to get some more felt because I did get an extra bobbin pin, or not bobbin pin, but a pin that can go in either location, and new, clean, completely unoiled felt pads. One will go up here at the top. I'll need to get a couple more so I can put one down at the bottom. And that will be, that'll protect the finish as you're running your, all right. The felt pads will protect your finish as your spools of thread are being, spun around here, so it's not rubbing onto your finish and tearing up the finish. But we've got a new rubber wheel. Could I 3D print one of these? Maybe, but why? That just slips on like that. And like I said, this will engage the wheel, and this offset screw here is what we can loosen up, and we can get the tension just right. So it's not flattening the wheel, but it's not barely rotating. So we'll be able to make the adjustment on the tension to that hand wheel just using that. But we'll have to get everything assembled first. So that's done. This stuff here is, this stuff over here, I don't know why it's so difficult for me to get, oh, I know why. Because the camera itself is focused way up, or is positioned way up. There we go. That'll help. So these right here go at the lower front of the machine to the bobbin. I am definitely going to have to look at those again, because once again, this is a tension spring. These go in a specific way to hook with other ones that are still in the machine. I have wiped everything down with isopropyl alcohol and Q-tips, and then re-oiled them in the front of the machine there. Let me move a couple of things around. That off, this off. We can stick the motor right there. Get all of our screwdrivers there. So what I'm referring to is our bobbin assembly right here. So as the needle goes up and down, this is what's bringing the bobbin around and doing the hook and loop thing. It looks like I still need to get some more crud out of the nooks and crannies here. We've got lint still up in there. But for the most part, all of the machine surfaces are clean. I didn't want to try and take this out because the screws are very hard to get to. I would need like a stubby or potentially to get these out of the way. And once again, I did not want to remove these rods if I didn't have to. There is a set screw here. This joint was very tight. I would have to use some more solvents that once again could damage the paint down here. Same thing with this one. This is the needle riser. Goes up and down as the machine turns. And I believe this is an oiling wick up here at the top as well. If so, I might have to fish this top piece, this cloth up here out and try and replace that. But yeah, we've got some shinies that we can put back on the front. So this piece here goes inside. There is a track that this bearing rides in, and then this is the pivot point. That lined up. Get that lined up, put the screw in, try and get it started with a thumbnail. Maybe not. Okay. There we go. So this, once again, your thread will be looping through here. This is the disengage for your foot. A lot of these parts came off and we polished them up to make sure that they shined a little bit. We'll have a front plate that goes on here and it just sits on with a screw and a keyhole piece. This one. Yep. The screw will just go in here. And I'm just showing you this for now. I'm going to take this back off. That arm goes through there. This basically just sits down and will slide straight down. And yep, that's it. You tighten this down and that holds the whole front cover on and hides your working mechanism. Take that off so I don't damage it while I work in here. How's it going, Petty? Yeah, believe it or not, I was actually like looking out on Amazon Facebook trying to see like, are there other sewing machines in the local area that are in need of restoration? Funny how one project will lead to many. So I am using IPA here, and I'm just being careful that I'm using it. I'm not using it right up here next to this surface. I'm using it on surfaces away from the paint finish so that I'm not going to get it on the paint finish. Just trying to clean things up, clean things off. The other thing I did do is set this on its side the other day and just wipe down this area. Obviously, I didn't get this side, but I tried to just wipe some things down. There is a bit of dust up underneath here still that I can get out. Once again, this is the cast material, so it's not painted. So you can come in here with a wet or with a, my case, an IPA'd Q-tip and just kind of get in the nooks and crannies and get some of the lint and other stuff off this machine. I was trying hard because everything was functioning. There was no real need to get in here and disassemble all of these workings. It just made zero sense to do that because it's working. And I don't want to make it not working. And like I said, we're just going to go through, clean this up. And get in here with a cotton ball or just a damp cloth. You could probably do the underside here with just a wet shop towel or something like that. We're just trying to get the bulk dust off of this at this point. Yeah, it's just kind of nasty. It's been sitting here for a while. So when it sits in the cabinet, this is the side here that is up. So any dust that gets in the cabinet is laying against this side, the back of the machine. That's why the back of the machine itself was pretty nasty. Because once again, this machine was basically just put away and never used after 1969. So this has sat there for quite a while. And definitely everybody is interested in seeing this, how this cleans up and all of that goodness. You know, for those of you that have been around long enough and have heard me say it, I am in the computer security trade. And one of the things that is kind of our mantra is, you know, first, do no harm. So our response to anything is to not cause additional harm. Like, it's really easy to say, like the other day, oh, X is being attacked. Well, great, shut it down. Shut all the network connections down. Well, that's great. It in essence will stop the attack, but it'll also stop X from being able to track things, monitor it, recover, get things back up and running, and all that good stuff. So you don't want to do more harm in your action when you're, so that's kind of the same technique here. Is I'm coming in here and trying to be as gentle as possible. If it means it takes me 5 times as long to do it, so be it. If I came in with an idea of, well, I'm going to be repainting this anyhow, it's going to be a full, you know, blast the frame down to bare metal and repaint it, then that's a completely different tact and method that I would be taking to try and get that redone. And the other thing I will say is when you're cleaning off things that have movable mechanisms and you're using a solvent like IPA or anything else, be kind. Put a couple of drops of sewing machine oil on those joints. Give them a little lubricant back. And especially some bare metal surfaces. If, you know, a lot of times you'll see people that'll go through and, oh, there's rust on it. Okay, well, I put evapor rust, or I go through with emery cloth and I clean it with emery cloth, and then they don't put a little bit of oil on it, and they come back and they go, well, dang it, I thought I cleaned that rust. Well, you did. And then you let it rust itself back up again because you left it open to the air as bare metal. So you always want to make sure that anything that's moving, that you go back and you put a little bit of oil on it and make sure that things still move when you're done. And there might be times where you just have to move it through its cycle some and go, oh, there's another part I can possibly get at. Blow it out some. See if there's a little bit of lint there. And there is a little bit of lint there, but see if I can. Gotcha. Oh, collected some dust bunnies in her day. Right, but that's kind of where we're at. I don't have much more that I can do on this. I can try and find the instructions to make sure I put this back together right. And that's really what I'm trying to do, is make sure I get it just the right order and get it back together. So that it works right and doesn't bind up. There was a dust bunny. I was trying to knock it out, and I think I just kept knocking it further into it. I'll have to find the right one to do this side. I cannot hang the motor just yet. The connectors I'm waiting on will get here tomorrow. They're 18 to 22 gauge, number 8, 18 to 22 gauge, number 8 ring terminals, uninsulated. And I think I've got insulated ones, but I need uninsulated because there's not a lot of room in the back of this for the connectors, and the insulated connectors will cause us issues. So we'll use uninsulated connectors. We'll get them put on. We'll do a little bit of heat shrink over them to keep them from shorting. I could, not to get the whole machine going, but we could do the motor test again if anybody's interested in seeing the motor itself run. Otherwise, like I said, I really want to watch a video before I go to do that. The wicks and stuff, I know exactly how to do that. I know how to get this back on when it comes time. We'll grease everything. This is the camshaft, and you'll see it's got the keys that will line up to the back of the motor plate. And then you've got these pins, and they become the stop. This bolt goes through there, and you'll have this screw. You'll screw this in, and you'll be able to either go forward, put tension on, and the hand wheel will move everything up on the business inside, or you rotate this back. Now you've released some tension, and it slips, and it's only doing the bobbin winder. So that's how that works. Hey, Royal Nomi, how's it going? Hey, Keela's Way, how's it going? I'm sorry, I'm just kind of chatting. I've been following some directions to make sure I put the bobbin winder back in correctly. I've got this is the original needle plate. And that does mount right back in here. Since I'm not going to be doing any more here, I could put this in, but it may limit my access to everything down here. That's why it's still left out. I don't think it will. I think it's just more of, it'll make it feel more cramped. And as soon as I do that, then I want to add the needle and the foot and everything. Fine. I like talking myself into doing it any. Where'd my, there's one, there's two. We got our 2 screws here. We'll go ahead and put those in. So we're in the reassembly stage here, taking it one small step at a time. Good to hear that. We're in kind of the assembly stage. Trying to find one that I can get a good purchase on the screw head and still not, and still a little bit taller so I can get the angle on it. Get these tightened down. So we're getting things assembled back on the machine. The motor runs. I can show you that the motor runs. Just, I don't want to put it on the machine just yet because I would have to take it all back apart off the machine to do the solder wick, or not, I keep saying solder wicks. To do the grease wicks once I get in the other springs, which should be here tomorrow. And then we'll have, that'll come in. So Thursday we'll be able to assemble that and get that back on the machine. And once we get the motor back on the machine, then we can do the hand wheel and get all that mounted. We can check the tension on the bobbin mechanism, which we just installed up here. So this is that automatic bobbin rewinder. Our handle, this will mount at the rear end. Our handle is going to come in, synchronize with the worm gear down here. And then what will happen is we'll go to pull up a bobbin. We'll put our bobbin on there. We'll move this forward. When this goes forward, and we're nowhere near, so I'm going to have to work on getting this pivoted down. This wheel will run against the inner part of the wheel here. And as this spins, it'll run this, pull your thread on your bobbin. This will continuously work up on the bobbin thread, and it will eventually pop up like that and disengage your wheel. So that's kind of how that mechanism works, and I just realized that that is way off. So let me see how I need to get that done. This needs to actually get fully seated, because that'll help. And then this, to get this sitting down on there, we'll set all this down. Now I've got a screw right here, and just backing that screw off, you just saw that moved. That allows me to rotate this down against spring tension. I'm going to rotate it down until it makes contact with the wheel. I'm not going to like push it hard. Think like V wheels on a machine. Just going to push it until it touches the wheel. Tighten that set screw down. Or not set screw, but tighten that screw down. Is that still backing off? Spring tension. Still too far away. what I need to do now is adjust it here a little bit more. Line that up, down. Adjusting, is it? All right, let me put a witness mark on here. Very lightly with a Sharpie. I'll be able to take that off later. Don't worry. So again, I'm going to set this in here and get it on that motor or on the worm gear. We're fully engaged. And now if you look at that witness mark that I put there as I rotate the wheel, should see it moving. Not fast apparently, but you are seeing that it moves around. Come on. Yeah, there we go. So you're seeing the mark on the inner ring of that bobbin winder. Should be moving around. See, there it is. So that's how that mechanism works. And then when this flips up, it disengages and it's no longer tied in. Okay. Like I said, we have been testing this by basically just wrapping the wires around the post and giving it a go. Probably could be a little bit safer, but I mean, yeah, could be a little bit safer. But what the hell? Let's hook this up and I'll show you that the worm drive does turn. And once I get the proper ring terminals, we'll hook this up appropriately. Now, the way this works, there is no ground. Okay, we're hot and neutral. That's all we get. I was opening the one terminal that I didn't need. So the way this is going to work is the lamp is going to go to 1 and 2. So 1 and 3, the two outside posts are live or hot. The center post is neutral. So everything is, or the machine itself is switched, actually machine and the light are switched on neutral. The machine is controlled by the foot pedal. In other words, it's switched on neutral by the foot pedal. The light itself is switched with on neutral with the with what looks like a bait light switch on the top of the light itself. I just don't have a light bulb to put in there to test because the light bulb was definitely garbage. And you want to do this, if you're putting bare wires on a terminal, you want to do it so the hook, the open end of the hook, is towards the direction of rotation. So as I rotate this on, it's going to twist the wire further into the loop versus out of the loop. And my preference would be to do a ring terminal and not do it this way at all, but this is what I got to work with right now. we'll get the ring terminals in tomorrow, and we'll be able to start doing these terminations. I'll probably do the wiring stuff tomorrow off stream, just to keep the project going. We've got to do the ring terminals. When we do the ring terminals, we're also going to put heat shrink the full length of these wires. We'll cut the wires to the appropriate length as well. And the reason we're going to put heat shrink the full length of these wires is, one, to make it look like one set of wires and make it look nice. But this is green wiring, and the factory fresh wire that I've ordered and got in for the foot pedal is standard black wiring. So once again, we've got 2-prong outlet. This is polarized. This machine's not polarized, it doesn't matter. It comes in one side of the plug, the other side of the plug comes out and goes to the foot pedal. This center button here is a rheostat. It acts like a horizontal potentiometer, basically, right? So we're going to take this and plug it into our Bakelite receptacle in the appropriate direction. We'll plug this into our outlet on the floor. Take some coffee. And I'm going to hold this up so that you can see our worm gear in here. And you'll see the worm gear start to move as I apply pressure. If I can get everything on camera at one shot. Really need to do better lighting, directional lighting. There we go. As I push down on the button, you'll see our worm gear start to move. Hear the motor engaging, or feel the motor engaging. And there's the worm gear running. On light, there we go. If you can hear that rubbing, that is the brand new brushes. So when you order brushes, they're rectangles, so they've got a flat end. Well, that flat end is running up against the commutator that's running on the shaft in the motor, which is round. So what we're doing is we're basically wearing it into round in the shape of the commutator. So that's what that rattling is it's making inconsistent contact to brushes that are sitting on springs. And right now there's no grease in here either. So, you know, this is just making a little bit of rattling noise. But once again, we've got a motor works, motor spins. So we're good. We've proven that our wiring works, our motor works. So that's good. Everything that we wired up here and here is good. So yeah, that's pretty good. As soon as we can get that motor on there and get it greased up, we'll be able to run this and have a darn good time. Oy. And I was afraid that these Bakelite pieces would just be so bad and cracked. And Bakelite with pressed inserts. Bakelite is a type of plastic used way back when. I don't think we use it anymore. I did find a new one of, well, new old one of these in case I needed to replace this. This does have a pretty healthy crack across the case there. But I'm probably still going to go with this now that I know that it's obviously electrically still sound. So I'm going to go with this and leave the other one as a spare. There was only one copper washer in here. I did get a full set of copper washers. So I'll be able to, we'll have ring terminals on the connections coming in, copper washers on the top, pressing everything down, getting really good connectivity. So that part's done. We can probably put this part on. This is kind of an interesting piece. Well, I find it interesting. This piece here has a dovetail joint, so it sits there and slides in from the top down. And it's got a screw that comes in here and holds it in place. This screw here. Well, this screw also has threads on the inner bore of it, if it would. So this has thread on the inner bore of it. And so this screw holds this to the rear. And then another screw comes in through the bakelite into the center of this screw to hold your physical connectors in. I just thought that was interesting and weird. I guess not weird, but interesting. All right, come on now. You just go in there. Drop you down to bring in, screw you in. Okay, so now that's back on there. We'll route the wires from the light and the wires from the motor right kind of behind this lip and into the screw down terminals on the back here. And then this mounts right here, and that's where your plug goes in. So that's where I'm saying once we get it ready to mount, I'll cut the wires to the appropriate length. We'll do the final connectors on it, and then I will run a full length of black heat shrink on it and heat shrink that down so it looks like one cable coming from the motor and 2 conductor cable coming down from here. And it'll be black instead of a green that doesn't match anything on the back side of the or the thing at all. There's also some stuff in the cabinet that I need to take off to include all of the hinges because they're just nasty. They're dirty. They need to be cleaned. And I think they may have some type of shellac on them or something. We're going to clean them up and get them looking pretty again. And crap, I dropped a thumb screw. Where did it go? Thumb screw, where did you? At least I think I dropped the thumb screw. There's that. But thumb screw's not on there, so I did drop the thumb screw. I will find the thumb screw later. Okay, so with that said, that goes there. That goes there. There's the needle. There's the foot. There's the sliding plate that covers the bobbin stuff. Here's the bobbin stuff. Probably this is the solder wick pieces. Stuff that goes down at the bottom of the machine. What I'm trying to do is get a little bit of clean space up here because we've got some boxes that arrived in the mail. Let's go out to, oh, that is pretty close. Standard view. There we go. We got a couple of boxes in today This one came in from FedEx. No. Yeah, FedEx. And I believe I know it's in here. But we'll see what is in here and what the presentations look. Oh. Hey, Major Gamer Geek, how's it going? So this should be some additional accessories. How about a wash and cure station? Wash station, cure station. This, my friends, is my TinyMaker resin printer that has finally come in. This was a Kickstarter that I backed. I believe you guys may have seen, was it Akuna Mods that had his? And I believe Uncle Jesse got his. Now they got the cool like thing that looked like a little pallet and everything. Apparently, I did not get that. These are some of the extras. So that's the resin build plate or a replacement. This is a secondary resin build plate. I believe this is the LCD screen replacement. I got one of those, a couple of spare vats. These were the extras that I ordered with the kit. And then we'll get the TinyMaker itself out. Now this is, once again, a resin printer. Comes with a cute little carry case. Plastic scraper with extra blades. What else we got in here? We've got, oh, that's cool. The main circuit board for the machine. So if it fries, you have a replacement here. A 128 meg SD card. Not sure what we're going to do with 128 meg. And this is the part that you normally see in the shots. How's that for presentation packaging? A pallet, a forkliftable pallet is what that looks like. Shows you 1-man, 2-man lift, how to lift it and everything on there. How is that for some packaging? What else do we have in here? Oops. We've got squeeze bottles, and they're opaque, so you can put resins in the squeeze bottles so that you can travel with this and take it places and show it off. You'll have a tray in the bottom that this will sit into, so it'll keep it from shooting all over the place. You got a carry handle, and you can have the printer on one side, the wash and cure on the other. So this is basically a base to make this a little bit more portable. But yeah, this is something we'll get into, not tonight, but in the days to come, because this should be perfect size to do like some small miniatures for some tabletop gaming. Aha. Goes in the other direction. Yes. There we go. So yeah, that's going to be our little TinyMaker resin printer. How's it going, Major Gamer Geek? That was just some nice packaging. Put the scraper back in there. Other foam pad came out of one of these, so we'll throw it in here, I think. Maybe, maybe not. That was one box that showed up today. This one, so the TinyMaker, a lot of people were getting upset because content creators got them and were showing them off late last year, maybe early this year. And they felt like the company had kind of ghosted everybody else and it was turning into vaporware. It didn't. It wasn't. And yes, this is a box from RatRig. Not sure what's in this one. Oh, wow. Lead screw. Some wires. In-stop wires and a bunch of things. This is missing parts and patch stuff. So I'm participating in the black box, or excuse me, the black box, the RatRig Mill beta program. And so this was some stuff that was missing or some things that came out in a patch level. And one of those patch level things included a different pitch lead screw. And there will be lead screw nuts in here. So we'll redo the Z-axis. What was happening is when the motors released or shut off, the Z-axis would slowly drop under its own weight. So they went with a different pitched lead screw, which did not bend in shipping, which is good. So we'll have that to replace in the machine, which is sitting out in the shed right now. And the other box that came is something we've also been waiting on to complete this build. And that box is a little bit heavier and a little bit bigger. So go ahead and get this box open. It says it's fragile. See if that actually got the box open or not. Maybe not. Ooh. Yep, this is on a ship or plane or something. There's a lingering scent of cargo. Put it that way. Take that off. Beefy cable with a nice connector, which should give you all an idea of what this is. Ooh. Not PTFE, folks. Oh, yeah. This is it. Oh. Oh, and that's what smells. I think it's the tape. Or maybe it's just that this is made in China and it might just be the oil that's obviously in the package because you don't get cleared yellow tape. Oh. Oh God, that is heinous. Oh, here we go. Let's see, we've got another flange connector. God, I hope I don't have to make these. Hopefully that other cable is well made, and you've got a 1/8" collet and could be a 1/4" collet. If I can get it out. Come on. Work with me. Work with me. No, don't. Oh. So I have an 1/8" collet. There's, I'm pretty sure, a 1/4" collet in here as well. I just can't dig it out of the foam. It's, oh, maybe. There we go. Got it. Oof. 6mm collet, aka 1/4". We got a 6mm collet, a 1/8" or 3mm, well, 1/8", and a 1/4" collet. I believe I have several of those already. Oh, look, we've got more collets on the other side. A 4mm ER20 collet and a 8mm or 0.8 collet, and oh my God, a 110 volt, 1.5 kilowatt, 12 amp ER20, 400 hertz, 24,000 RPM, air cooled or possibly water cooled. No, this is going to be water cooled. Spindle. All your vitals are there. And she heavy. She is heavy. Oh. So, with that there, and that with the water lines over there as well, we will most likely have a VFD and a water pump in here. So once again, this will be for the RatRig Mill that I'm beta testing. Haven't been able to do too much beta testing because, well, the spindle's the business end of things. And yeah, this is going to be the variable frequency controller for VFD. This will be plugged in, and you're going to set your speeds and everything on this. This is part of the RatRig Mill kit. So you've got the Milo, right, from LDO Motors. This is a RatRig desktop mill, similar but different. Similar but different in the fact that the fairly more robust structure. And I've got them sitting next to each other out in the shed. I will, when I go to hook all this stuff up, I will take pictures and kind of show the difference between the two. And yes, they had this at Remurf. Though it was still in beta, they did not have it for sale. In fact, it's still not for sale. If you go to their website, there will be nothing about it. Like I said, I am beta testing this unit. We did do the build on stream, and I did not realize that it was going to be a water-cooled unit. So that's is kind of cool. This should be the water pump for, whoa. Water fittings. And the SK3200 water pump. Kind of looks pumpish. So, yep, we'll have to add this stuff. I think this is going to go back in the box in any semblance of the same manner in which it came out of the box. Cable. One end there, the other end is bare wire, but I think this is going to go on the VFD. This side goes into the spindle, so that's already done for us. The one that comes in the spindle is basically a spare, or if you want to do another set of quick disconnects somewhere else in the system, you can. They are going to have their own enclosure for their mill as well. They sent me something about basically, hey, you can get the parts for the enclosure at a discount, so I may take them up on that. I also have a holdout of the not a holdout, but I have a pre-order in for the LDO. Was it the Casa for the Milo, which is their enclosure? Hey, Edge of 3D, how's it going? Yeah, the RatRig Mill #1 from Murph 2024. Sweet. That's pretty cool. So this, the Summer Palace. This was in the TinyMaker. This is just thank you for helping us realize our dream. Make the miniatures printed by this device. May the miniatures printed by this device help to bring more joy to you, TinyMaker team. And it's just a little postcard. So that's pretty neat. Tech Jeeper, welcome in. Igaruki, welcome in. So yeah, several big boxes that came in. How are you doing, Edge of 3D? Haven't seen you in quite a while. I noticed that you started putting out some videos again. Kind of cool. So yeah, we got our little tiny resin printer to start playing with, which is good because my bigger resin printer, Evil Diesel, took to do an order and never brought it back. So now he's got like 8 of my machines, but that's cool. If it doesn't fit in the box, use a hammer. No, Bob, no hammers. Stop with the hammers. Hey, Bob, did you want to see the sewing machine? Did your spouse see the sewing machine so you can get into rehabbing sewing machines as well? So Edge of 3D, I know that you've been gone for a little bit and you're like, this doesn't look like a 3D printer. I was just showing some mill stuff, some resin printing stuff. We got the RatRig back here. We've done the IDEX upgrade. We've been doing some dual color IDEX prints with it. Using some CookieCAD and PolyMaker filaments. We're continuing to play with this. I've got to get 2 death racers built, another dragster printed and built, and God knows what else for the show season coming up. Hey, TinyMaker Zach, how's it going? And so we've been working on this Singer sewing machine. This, based on the serial number, this is a model 1591 Singer sewing machine. I have taken it out of its cabinet because we need to work on the cabinet, and it was easier to work on it here than still sitting in a cabinet. We've taken things off. We've been polishing up the shiny metal bits and cleaning everything up. It was really caked, like this especially was caked with lint and oil and dust and everything. And cleaning it up, polishing it up. We do have damage on the lacquer finish here on the bed. Let me pull you down here and bring you all in a little bit. I gotta go way closer than. Oh, yes. Fine, we'll bring you in. So you can see the very shiny parts here. This is the black lacquer. These kind of dingy yellowed pieces right here. That is actually the lacquer clear coat. That has, so here that lacquer has been worn off from usage, right? This is a sewing machine that belonged to my wife's great-grandmother, who was a professional seamstress. It was purchased in West Virginia and moved from West Virginia to Florida. When she passed in 1969, it was pretty much not put in storage, but the machine was never really opened up other than a, hey, look at this, and then put back down, right? This has a potted motor or a brushed motor that we have gone through. We cleaned all the old grease out of. We took the motor apart. We've rewired it because the wiring was pretty crunchy. And in the process of rewiring it, I realized that they had twisted the coil wires together as a strain relief. They call it underwriters. It's a strain relief knot, but they did it with bare aluminum wire and not with insulated wire. So that is now gone. We now have proper copper clad wire in here. We ran this a little bit earlier. It is functioning, so that's good. What I'm waiting on right now before I mount the motor is I've got the grease wicks that go up into the motor. I boogered one of these springs completely up, so I'm waiting on a new spring to come in so that I can mount the grease wicks and get it greased up, because those come in from this side, or this side of the motor, which fits like this, so it's at the underside of the motor. They're kind of difficult to get to grease, so I don't want to mess with it mounting this until I get that done. Like I said, we took stuff off and redid all the shinies as we could. Yeah, we're getting close. We're real close. The stuff that comes in Wednesday should be enough to get it done. Now, like I said, this is the old lacquer clear coat. There is a method that I can try to, it's basically called the French polish method. It'll use shellac, or not shellac, it'll use denatured alcohol and linseed oil. And I will use that to basically kind of break down the old clear coat and lacquer and kind of feather it in and even it out. And then come back with shellac and linseed oil and do several light coats, and then basically take a month to let it fully dry and harden and cure, because these are normally baked in an oven that I don't have access to. Right, so that is something that I could do. There is things like a lot of scoring and wear marks up here. we didn't know it at the time, and we've since thrown it out, but there was a cloth that was wrapped around the neck here that was pinned together, and we took it off because it stunk to high heaven. It had so much old sewing machine oil in it, and it's sat in the cabinet since '69, so 55 years. Yeah, so that got thrown away. We could have sneezed on it and probably started a fire. But what these are is that cloth that was wrapped around here was a makeshift pin cushion. So as she's sewing, she would pull the pins and put them right up here, or she'd take pins and do stuff. So that's why there's a lot of scoring marks right here. Now, some people would say, no, we should take this down to bare metal, go get some new decals, repaint it, and re-decal it. This is a family heirloom. I'm not going to do that. If I do get another one of these down the road that I can buy off like Facebook Marketplace or something, maybe I'll do something like that. And maybe that's where I'll try the recovery techniques of the French polish to try and bring this back around and get a new coat of clear coat on it before I do it to this machine. There's too much sentimental value in this machine to do something that could ultimately damage the paint and degrade its value to the family. Because once again, this is my wife's family, right? This is going to stay with the family and go down to the kids. But yeah, I've seen an old treadle. Someone in my family has at least a treadle cabinet. I don't know if it has a sewing machine in it, but for the life of me, I can't figure out who it is because I'm picturing it like it was yesterday, but I can't figure out whose house it was that had it. But yeah, great grandma was a professional seamstress, used this daily for her business, and based on the serial number, this is the batch of serial numbers was issued for the Model 15s in December 1949. The next batch of serial numbers that were released for the Model 15 was March of 1950. So based on this number and how low it is in that range, I'm going with this was manufactured in December 1949 or January 1950. And you could bake it in your kitchen oven if you don't mind. Yeah, exactly, Built Over Bot. Like I said, I don't have an appropriate oven to bake the finish in. And at that point, you want to basically strip everything out of it to just the bare casting shell. And I also don't want to do that. So you can do a search on the serial number, and it'll get you close to what the model number is, and then you may have to look to see like the different accoutrements. Like this one was really easy because the 1591 is the only Singer Model 15 with a motor. The rest of them, does it have a solid hand wheel? Does it have a spoked hand wheel type of thing, right? So you have to start looking at designating features. Yeah, and they're very close. Like there's a 201 model and the 1591 model. I can't remember which the 201 model is that have the potted motor that are just the same. But this motor is 120 volt, half amp, 25 to 75 cycle AC/DC motor. Brush motor, it works really well. We just fitted the automated bobbin spooler to it. And that's where you'd put your thread down here, wrap it around this tensioning mechanism, comes up, and you stick your bobbin on. You put a latch down, and that'll hold the thread onto the latch. And what it also does is it engages a rubber wheel on this inside ring of the hand wheel. And there's a special washer here that's got these standoffs, right? These little peg standoffs. This will go in, and these two teeth, for lack of a better term, will key into the motor shaft here. Okay, so you'll have your motor on here. Let's do some demonstration. You'll have your motor on and screwed in. Okay, you'll have your hand wheel in, screwed in, and engaged with the worm drive. This with your standoffs facing out, lined up with the teeth there. And then this goes on, and you've got this screw, which is a shoulder bolt. So you'll screw this on, and hopefully it lines up in such a way that that shoulder bolt is in the right spot. If not, you basically take this off and you redo the, you flip that 180 degrees. But what that'll allow you to do is just by rotating this, you'll go from, hey, I've got additional tension. Now this is running the shaft going through, to I back this off a quarter turn, and I've released the tension just enough on those tabs that it's not driving the shaft and the needle at the front, but the wheel's still spinning and engaging this rubber wheel that spins up and loads your bobbin automatically. When the bobbin gets full, this will continue to rise up, and then eventually it'll do just like that, and it'll release the tension off this wheel, and it'll start freewheeling. You can let off your electric motor, re-engage this, and start sewing after you move your bobbin and feed your bobbin in. That's kind of how that works. And once again, we'll get all that assembled once we can properly grease this motor. And for the most part, anything that is black painted on here that was black lacquer, we used sewing machine oil, cotton balls, and Q-tips to try and clean. Anything that's underneath that was just straight cast, or any of the metal bits that we were able to take off the machine, we soaked in IPA, or we dipped a Q-tip in IPA and cleaned that up. But we were letting that IPA basically break down the oil, you know, the 20-something, 30-something year old oil that was sitting on that part for so long, right? So I started off by Q-tips and IPA, trying to get the bulk of the gunk off this. Then I used metal polish, some Mother's Mag and aluminum metal polish, and I polished this by hand with a blue shop towel, right? Then I came back and put more polish on it, and I polished it using a Dremel and a buffing wheel. And I did it all without taking the tensioning mechanism off here, because this has about 12 to 13 components, and half of them are springs. And I didn't want to deal with that. It was working, it was functioning. It's pretty enough. We got that cleaned up. Edison's AC or Tesla's DC power grid in the New England. There you go. Yeah, that's what we've kind of been working on. I should be able to finish getting the motor and stuff and the light fixture. So the light fixture needed to be rewired as well. And I just have it taped together because I don't have the locking rings locking this together, because I need to do, one, I'm waiting on a light bulb to come in so I can put it together. And I'm also debating, this Bakelite shroud has a crack in it. So I'm debating doing some epoxy on the inside to strengthen that and hold it together, because I can't find just a shroud. And if I find a vintage light, it's the full light piece, and it's like $40 for just the light. But on the rewire job here, we basically wound up taking all these parts apart. This had bare wire showing in it. The insulation was cracked so bad. And in attempts to solder new wire to old wire, which was aluminum wire, the aluminum heated up too fast and basically detached from the tabs. So I had to clean everything off, bend this tab, resolder it, and do all the shenanigans to basically make this a functional light socket again. I have yet to test it. I should probably test for continuity. What do you? Doesn't seem like much continuity, but I should test for continuity, because it'd really suck to get a new light bulb, put all this in and mount it up, and then find out that I don't have good continuity, and then I have to go and figure out, is it dirty contacts? Is it bad wiring? You know, what have you. Like I said, I can get new fixtures, but it has to be the whole thing. I can't find just the pieces, and it's fairly expensive for this vintage light. It's a 120 volt light. The light's easy enough to find. The light bulbs, you can still find those. I cleaned this glass earlier today, right? This is the glass for it. And I keep saying, wow, look how thick that glass is, right? Pretty thick. Now, let me turn it sideways. Do you see anything weird in that glass? It is thinner at this end and thicker at this end. So this is a almost solid glass top to bottom here. And that's an angled angle in the glass. It's really, really weird. So definitely don't want to bust this, because yeah, then I can't get that glass by itself. I have to find the scalpers on eBay that have the full system. And like I said, I need to test this before I get the light in tomorrow. Lots of shop towels, lots and lots of cotton swabs, and just a lot of just going at it with good old elbow grease, trying to clean this up. Yeah, not juggling with it. Though, if you chuck this at somebody, yeah, it's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt. That's pretty hefty. But yeah, that's kind of all I had for this evening, folks. Sorry about that. We've got a couple of projects. Obviously, we've got stuff for the mill, though the mill's out in the garage or in the shed. And the way I got it to the shed was to take the x-axis off move it in 2 pieces, and then remount the x-axis. And when you add a 20-pound spindle on to the z-axis, just taking the x-axis off isn't going to be enough. It's just too heavy and unwieldy at that point to keep moving it around. So that spindle and everything is going to have to be done in the shed. Or, yeah, no, it'll get done in the shed, which is, I'll have the Shapeoko out there, the old Genmitsu 3018 that's now like a 2040, some weird thing. And the Milo and the RatRig Mill. So got all the fun stuff out there. Well, once I get the machine back together and we say, hey, it's moving, I need to go and take, like I said, take the parts off of the cabinet itself and see how much of that I need to clean up and, you know, de-rust and so on and so forth. And my wife's going to work on refinishing the cabinet. We're going to try and just do the top surface because the top surface is what's really a mess. There are photos out on the Discord, and I posted some up on X. We need to get that fixed, and then we can get everything mounted back in the cabinet and figure out where to put it on display so that it's out there and being seen and enjoyed. I will probably have a family member or maybe Evil Diesel come over and give it a shot because I'm not a seamstress. I don't sew. I can learn, but yeah, I'm gonna have to learn. But like I said, the coolness of doing this project has kind of piqued my interest in doing more of these and checking out some more of these older machines and learning about them, some of their history, and reviving them. So there are, I will say, newer. So today on this particular machine and the older ones, let me switch back over here. So this, normally your motor thing here, you could just undo the wheel and you can't spin it backwards because you'll have the motor and hand wheel. And if you didn't have the light, you could spin it forward, but with the light there, you would have to take the thumbnail or the thumb wheel, thumb screw off, take the motor cover off, or the workings cover, and you can get in here and lightly oil things to make sure everything's working as intended. And here's the screw right here for the light holder. Okay. On newer versions of the light, when you buy them, they're already mounted on this bracket, and this bracket is one piece with this cover. So all you have is the thumb screw cover, and when you take you have to take the thumb screw and the cover off to take the light off. Now the light is not plumbed into the motor receptacle. It's got its own power cord to it. So I don't know if it's still a 120 light and you could cut the end off and plumb it in, or if it was just like an aftermarket for a treadle powered one to be able to add light on your work. But that would be something that we still need to look at. Or, I mean, once I get the light, I'll make sure that the light works and I can get it to turn on and all that goodness. And we'll get everything installed. So hopefully Thursday, this whole machine is back together and we'll be good to go. And we'll be able to actually apply power and watch the sewing machine do sewing machine movements in and of itself instead of just running the motor dry. I definitely do not want to run those gears without grease in it because The worm gear on the motor is metal. The drive gear here is not metal. This is another type of plastic for these gears. So you do not want to run them without lubrication on them, or you'll crack the teeth in those gears and you'll wind up doing a lot more disassembly work and trying to find a part that's even harder to find. The vintage sewing machine into an embroidery machine. I don't see why you couldn't. I don't see why you couldn't. I know this machine, as it stands with that small motor, is capable of sewing heavy canvas and leather. You just have to have the right needles and stuff and all that goodness. But this can sew leather with the right foot and the right needle to be able to go through the leather. Actually, what I've got is Sewing Retro. This is the grease for sewing machines. It's probably pretty close. Formulated to work on any sewing machine with all metal gears, but it should never be used on plastic or nylon gears. Interesting. Featherweight is illustrated below, but please refer to your sewing machine owner's manual. So I will have to double, triple, quadruple check that, because like the featherweights actually use the angled gears to transition horizontal and vertical. I've got to double check that now. To make sure that that grease will work for this. Actually, is this? Pretty sure I heard somebody, or I was reading that this was not a metal gear, but let me double, triple check that. Okay, so magnet not attaching to the teeth of the gear, but will attach above and below. So the gear teeth here are, dang it, are definitely not a metallic material. So now I've got to be careful, and I have to look into the grease options again. And yeah, maybe we will use some EP2 or something. Because if I just read this and it said no to never be used on plastic or nylon gears, now I've got to double check that. Thank you for mentioning that again. Otherwise, I probably would have waited and been like, uh-oh. It may be a bakelite. I will double, triple check. I've got the adjuster's manual, and I've downloaded one as well. It's just on the other computer. So I'll have to look that up and see what kind of gear material it is. I will definitely tell you this thing had grease in it, and it was nasty. Nasty grease. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at this moment, guys and gals. I don't have a project that we can really get into at this moment, and I can't really do too much more on this without having to possibly back out a bunch of stuff. So I think that puts us at a stopping point. I know I saw that Big Jano was not streaming tonight, that he's having to shift to tomorrow night this week, and most likely having to shift his Thursday night stream as well. So let's see who else may be online at this particular point in time. Guys, it's good to do some short streams every once in a while. It gives you a chance to go and do further research on. So Twitch, following. Who are we following? Maker Deck, Way Cool Wood. Got Zicky making some plankies. Astro Canuck, live astrology, and there's two SpaceX rocket launches tonight. I didn't know that. How much I pay attention to current events. Sigarecki showing some prints. Chris Perillo. Gang's up and running. Oh man, playing some games. Heresy doing some electronics soldering stuff again. Tends to do some major circuit board stuff. So what do you guys want to do? You want to go to Astro Connect tonight? Maybe see some launch stuff or talk some launch stuff? Fingerprints all over that now. Try and make things all shiny, and then you get greasy fingerprints all over things. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get a raid started to Astro Canuck. And I will say thank you, everybody, for being here and showing up tonight. It's good to see you, Edge of 3D and TinyMaker Zach. I don't get to see you guys too often over here in the stream. Chewy, thanks for being here. Built Over Bot, thank you for coming in and chatting some more about this project. I know that if you got into one of these, I think you would really like it. I don't know if you got extra time for more stuff. And Adam, welcome in, and you have a great one. I will probably see you all tomorrow over in Jano's stream at some point. But who knows? I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Between work and stuff like that, too many meetings going on. But thank you all for being here. You guys have a great night. We will see you around the interwebs. And thank you for coming in and hanging out as I talk about this Singer sewing machine and work on this sewing machine. I know it's a slight difference than the normal machines that we're working on here in the Dragon Den. But have a great night, and I'll see you all next time. Bye now. If you're watching this later on YouTube, thank you very much. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you like the content down below. Be sure to ring the bell so you get notified of new videos as they're available. And YouTube's going to be suggesting a video for you.